Well, here's something that is very, very common amongst people that are actually building something. And that is basically waiting for some kind of proof that this thing is going to work. For example, because while they are waiting, what they are doing in reality is that they actually kind of half committing because they are 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and they are acting like someone who's trying something out and instead of someone who's actually building something real. And the problem is that results don't come for people that are actually waiting for permission, and they come to people who act like the person who has them. And this is actually a call from our licensing program, and I wanted to share it because this problem in its entirety isn't just a program problem, because almost everyone building something deals with this. And this call covers a framework called the identity switch, and it exactly explains why identity drives behavior, not the other way around, and the practical filters that you can start using today. So hope you like it. So it's a mindset and identity call, and this is basically taking an identity before the results even show up. And this is actually a big issue that a lot of people do come up against, because by the end of this call, you stop waiting for the results before you start acting like a business owner, and you'd have a filter for every decision you make. Not just that, but you understand why identity drives behavior, not the other way around. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I had a conversation with Mario, and I realized that it's definitely something that would be needed to be overcome, basically assuming an identity before the results even show up. Because a lot of the times people might think, okay, they are not ready or good enough, or they might think, okay, something is a bit too big for them before they start it, basically. But you want to first assume the identity before it even happens, first of all, because even if you achieve the results and the identity is still lacking, you're still going to be at the same spot, basically. So starting with the first one, which is basically the waiting trap, because you tell yourself, okay, once I get my first client, I will feel like a business owner, and a lot of the times it does come up. And how it actually works when it comes to identity, as I've said, is that you first adopt the identity, then based on that identity, you behave like that identity, then the results will show up based on that behavior that you act, basically. So you act like the person's first, then the results will follow the identity, and commit and make sure that you are consistent before the proof shows up. And what a lot of people actually end up doing is that they first wait till they get the result, then they will adopt the identity, then they will start behaving, when in reality you can't even get the results without even behaving like what. Because a way that a business owner acts is that he sends outreach consistently, he gets stuff done on time. When if you're not doing that, how will the results come up in the first place? So you first need to adopt the identity, then behavior will come, then the results will show up. So now the identity shift, because there are 4 shifts that change how you actually show up every single day, which is basically the mirror test, the filter, the decision filter, the fear tax, and basically evidence stacking. So we'll go through all through the 4, and yeah, basically. So now starting with the mirror test, basically meaning are your ambitions matching, are your actions matching your ambition? So now let me ask Marius first of all, if someone was to watch your last 7 days, what would they see? Would they see someone that would end up having a successfully a business, or would they see someone that would still be in the same spot, maybe within 3 months or something like that? What do you think that would be?
At the same spot 3 months ago.
So, and why do you think that is?
It's fear. Okay, I feel not prepared yet to provide the service for the client. I don't know how to do it.
Is it because you don't know how to do it, or you already put up a guard up with yourself, like, okay, you feel not ready, like you do not feel ready to provide this kind of service? If you do not feel ready, and let's say calls, you were to be booking calls, this would show up on your calls then, and the prospect will 100% read it, and they would tell that, okay, yes, Marius is definitely not ready to provide this kind of results he's talking about, and you would end up never actually signing a client in the first place, which means that the results will never show up. So do you think that is a bit true?
Yeah, this is the problem because I don't know the technical side of the business. I don't know how to do workflows. I'm still learning anything. I'm beginner, and JHL also I'm beginner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to understand how the system works and build something. I built the voice AI agent with some tutorials from JHL, but I'm still learning. So if I don't feel confident to that I can provide the service for the real client.
So, and that's definitely a good thing to have. It just shows that you have a lot of integrity, and that's definitely good. But then, if you never take the action to sign the client, you'd always end up in learning mode. And if you always end up in learning mode, you're never going to take the action, which means you'll always be at the same spot. And that's actually the number one thing that a lot of people that's what a lot of people do get stuck at, which is basically being at the same spot all the time, waiting until they feel ready. But all the preparation that you're doing, you're as I've told you, basically building for demo and building for production, they are two completely different things. You might think, okay, you've nailed it extremely well in demo, but when it comes to production, it's a completely different beast, because that is when you're dealing with real customers and stuff like that. Not just that, but when it comes to building, as I said, we made it completely easy for you with using Claude to build everything for you. So when it comes to actually building everything, it's straightforward and stuff like that. I will cover that on the Thursdays call basically, but I definitely do understand where you're coming from, and that is why a lot of people do get stuck at the sales spot, thinking that they are making progress, but in reality, if you're not doing any needle moving task, you will always be at the same spot. What about you, Milos?
Well, this is a huge topic, very good one.
Yeah.
I totally understand, Marius. I know, I'm very similar, like watching all those tutorials, making sure you know the details. You're always afraid that during the sales call, your potential client will ask you something basic and you will not know the answer.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm totally aware of what's going on in the background. I know that I will never be prepared enough. There will be always questions I don't know answers to, and most of the questions that I'm afraid will never come up. So let's say 2 months ago, I was getting ready to start reaching out to potential clients and having sales calls. And I was totally nervous about it, having issues sleeping. But at the same time, I knew I had to reach out. I knew I had to make a sales call. And I knew I have to make a sale to get a client and then find out what I don't know. Because you will never learn until you get upon like 10 clients and see all the issues that are coming up along the way. And then you realize that all these questions and issues will probably never come up, and some other things will come up, but the only thing to know, to learn, is to get clients. So basically, you need to fake it till you make it. You need to behave as if you're like an expert on the topic, that you know everything, and then when stuff happens, you need to have belief in yourself that you'll be able to figure it out. So around 3 weeks ago, I got a client, and what happened is I didn't know what I didn't know. So I promised some features that were just not there,
Yeah.
like for example, social media posting, YouTube posting and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I realized that my provider, white label provider, cannot really deliver. So I had to figure it out, and I did. I did figure it out. I have to take the other way around it, connected to GHL, create social media posts within GHL, and I initially didn't plan to do it. and I didn't really know how to like connect my client's CRM to my CRM to GHL. So I have to figure it out, create an event workflow. So, oh yeah, so the only way to really get all the answers that you need is to get out and do it. Get the client 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 clients, and you will get the answers in fastly. But watching tutorials, thinking about questions that will never ever come up is like just a waste of time.
Definitely. And it all stems from being scared of failure in the first place, because we're all scared of failure. And think about it from this perspective. We're all thinking about the questions that the clients will ask us on the call. And guess why that client booked that call in the first place? Because you are the expert. So imagine them questioning you about things that you are way more knowledgeable at in the first place, which means that the questions that you are getting paranoid by overthinking about that they would ask you are really never gonna come up. The only thing that a client cares about is that, okay, are you helping me solve this problem, and will you achieve the results? And what you have to do is just basically explain how you do that. They don't really sometimes, yes, they might ask you some technical questions, but most of the time it's going to be regarding, okay, how can I get my problem solved, and how are you going to achieve that basically? And as I've said, it all stems from the part of failure and entrepreneurship. If you can remember the last call that we did, which was on Monday, I spoke about your failure rate. Basically, you want to fail as fast as possible so that you know what you need to fix as fast as possible, so that you're ultimately on the right side, basically. Because the whole game of entrepreneurship is basically just failing. Starting a business is all failing. But if you're always scared of taking that step and thinking, okay, until I feel ready, that is when, okay, I'm going to start selling, you're always not going to feel ready. You're always never going to feel ready. So it just has to do with just taking the step and not being scared of failure. Always do not see failure as a bad thing. See it as more of a good thing, like you're making progress. And okay, let's say the client asks you the question and you don't know the answer to it. Well, if you are extremely good at booking calls, which is what scales a business, is not by actually knowing the technique. Yes, the technical skills is how you deliver, but actually by booking calls, you do know, okay, the next time that comes up, you know the answer to it. So it's more about, okay, failing as fast as possible, not getting stuck at the same spot forever and ever and ever again. And the whole way that we designed this whole thing is so that you don't even make the mistake that Milos did, which is where he basically added deliverables that were not possible in the first place, which is why I review your offer. Every single thing you do, I review it, and I have to see if it makes logical sense, if it is even possible to be delivered as a service, or it's not even possible. Because there's a lot of times that you might, okay, brainstorm your offer with AI, and it might tell you something that is definitely not possible, or even if it's possible, it's extremely unreliable. So just try and see failure from a good perspective, like as a good thing, rather than seeing it as, okay, if I failed, like that's it. It's never the end of the world if you fail. Always get used to failing, basically. So you see, your actions are your identity. Because as Milos has said, if you assume the identity that, okay, you're always not ready, you wouldn't want to even send outreach in the first place. You wouldn't want to go through the training videos, the modules and stuff like that, because it's even evident with Marius. He doesn't want to go through the stuff because he feels that he is not ready. So he's doing stuff that he has been doing for the past few months, which is why he has been stuck in the same place, basically. So you first want to assume your identity. Basically, did you show up every day? Did you send out? Did you create content? Did you practice your pitch? Or did you only do it when you felt like it, or when you felt ready? So your actions are basically a reflection of your identity. So if you show up consistently, it means that, okay, you have assumed the identity of a business owner, basically. And now, the decision filter, basically. And all this has to do with your identity. So what would a $10,000 per month version of Marius do right now, basically? And I want you to run it through every single decision that you'll be doing. Like, for example, the OG, let's say a person that, okay, does not make $10,000, maybe they haven't even signed for their first client. They would skip outreach because they're not in the mood, or they would watch tutorials instead of doing the work, or they would second guess the offer for the fourth time, or wait for the right moment, basically, when they feel ready. But a person that assumes, or should I say, go like whenever he's going to make a decision, he runs it through this filter, which is basically the $10,000 version of themselves, which would basically, okay, send a message anyway, like build first, then learn when stuck, basically ship the offer and iterate from data and act now and adjusting later, basically. So now think of, let's start with Marius once again. What's that one thing that you have been avoiding? Let's say starting outreach, yeah? If you were to run it through this filter in particular, what will the $10,000 per month version of Marius be doing?
Yeah, this is the first one, stacking outreach.
So would you so do you think the $10,000 per month version of Marius would say, okay, I'm not going to do outreach today because I do not feel ready and I feel like I have to watch one more tutorial until I feel ready? Or would they say, okay, I'm going to start doing outreach so that
start doing the 10K version, yeah.
And
that means I already know also the technical side of how to do it.
Yes, because you have assumed the identity, basically. Even if okay, that hasn't happened, but yes, you have assumed the identity, which means that your action will be reflecting, which actually your behavior will be reflecting that identity, basically.
Yeah.
So whenever you're going to make a decision the next time, think of it from this perspective. Would the $10,000 per month version of you, what would they do in this perspective? Would they slack? Would they do this? Just go through it through a decision filter. What about you, Milos? What do you think? Have you gone through, like, what's one thing that you have been avoiding, basically?
Yeah, a lot of them. So the difference between 0 and 10K per month, the difference between amateurs and professionals is the difference between motivation and discipline. Amateurs need motivation, professionals just discipline. So if you rely on being motivated, then you will fail. So building this discipline, so let's say you need to make 100 calls every day. You need to send 200 emails every day. And this is something that's not negotiable. So you either do it or not. You can't just be motivated on Monday and then not do it until Friday. So you need to show up every day. It takes discipline to do it. Yeah. So you need to make a contract with yourself. Like, I'm gonna call 300 businesses this week.
Yeah.
You must do it. And if you skip one day for whatever reason, you need to make it up the other day. So you need to make 300 calls this week.
Yeah.
And this is the difference between motivation and discipline. So if you rely on motivation, you will fail. You need to have discipline if you really want to get anywhere. So my biggest problem is, and I think I already said it, I get stuck when I have more than like a couple of outstanding things to do. So need to create a VSL, need to get the clients rolling, need to get my LinkedIn posting and messaging. So if I have like 5, 6, 7 stuff to do, I don't get to do anything or just one of them. And I always had this problem, just like multitasking. I was never able to do so as in a pipeline, one thing gets stuck, everything gets left. That's like how it's in my head. So if I were able to okay, next 2 hours I'm gonna finish the VSL and then I'm going to do my LinkedIn, it would be great. But every time I think about it, it's like I need to do 10 things and the outcome is
you.
I'm just gonna watch a YouTube
video.
So 0, yeah. So I'm aware of the problem, but I was never good at fixing this kind of problem. So whenever I don't do something, it's always because I had like 5 things to do and I didn't do anything.
And have you tried looking at it from like a perspective of doing it step by step? I know even myself, I do get caught in this trap sometimes. But what has helped me tremendously is that okay, I look at it from this angle. Okay, I do everything step by step. But it's extremely hard to as well to maybe like focus on one thing without the other thing still being at the back of your mind, basically. So have you tried basically like, okay, listing them all out, then doing them based on priority? Like let's say for example, now your priority might be basically, okay, completing the work for the clients, which you've already done basically. But before you did it obviously took time. So have you, okay, looked at it from the perspective, okay, taking the most important thing, doing it first of all, then just focusing on doing that. It doesn't matter how long it takes, just finish up, then you do the next thing. Because one thing about multitasking is that you're never, even if you get it done, you're not going to get it done at the quality that you typically do get it done normally. So have you tried doing it from that perspective, or what have you tried in general, basically?
The thing that works for me is like creating to-do lists.
Okay.
Well, like writing them all down and then checking them one by one. That's the only thing that ever worked for me.
Okay. And do you typically plan out your day before the day and stuff like that?
Planning my day was like always strange for me. I wouldn't really like to live my life like that. I can plan my week, maybe, like do 300 of something, and then do it in 2 or 3 days, not 5 days, 20% each day. So planning my day was always like, as if I'm going to jail or something. When you go to breakfast,
you
do the round and stuff. That's not the way I would like to run my life. So I was always like a campaign kind of guy, like in order to get to 10K, I'm going to make 100,000 cold calls. I can do it. If I can do it in like a year, not a problem. But planning my day, like get up at 5, go to the gym, and no, that's not the way I want to run my, especially after I quit my 9-to-5 job.
Okay. And okay, so have you tried to like maybe go through your day, maybe not even like structured, like a time, like basically like a time block? Okay, this exact time I'll do this. Have you tried it basically from like a high level perspective where okay, this time range is when I would maybe do this, then this time range is when I would do this? Because without structure, everything feels like you're not holding yourself accountable. And because if you do not have, let's say, even if it's not like maybe time block in your day, every day before, like let's say before the next day, you could set out, okay, a to-do list, as you said, of things that you need to check out, you need to make sure you need to do the next day. Because it seems like, okay, you do not like to feel confined by basically a day-to-day structure and stuff like that. So what you could do, maybe like for tomorrow, you could maybe write all the tasks that you need to do on a to-do list, and you make sure at the end of that day you complete all that to-do list. And if you do not complete one, maybe you push it to the next day, or you ask yourself, why didn't you complete it? So that it can be like a feedback loop.
Yeah. So I have a whiteboard here and it's empty at the moment. So I'm going to create my to-do list, and also when creating a to-do list, it must not be like too long. It is more than 5 items. It's too long. So I'm gonna create my to-do list with 4 or 5 items, and then create something different for like ongoing stuff, like social posting for a client and stuff like that. But I need to create a to-do list of things I need to do now, and then just like check when it's done. That's the only thing that ever like gave results for me.
Okay, so basically checking and doing it up. So
Yeah, checking them done.
Yeah, so if you're doing it like that, and as you said, it brings you good results, what you can just do is just double down on it and just adopt it in a way that, okay, before the next day you just write on the task and you make sure that you just check them all out by the end of the day, and you just know that you're done for that day, basically. Simple. And yeah, so that's basically how you can keep on going. So now, the third one, which is basically fear tax. And every day you do not act, you basically pay a tax. You basically pay a tax which it's either delay or whatever, basically. And inaction, as I've said, has a real cost, because 10 imperfect messages today will always be better than 0 perfect messages. Because those perfect messages that you have in your mind that you think would be perfect messages are actually not perfect. They may not be perfect. In your head, it may be perfect, but a perfect message is basically a message that converts. So you need to make sure that you do not get stuck in the hole of, okay, you need to make sure that anything I do has to be perfect. So just get the imperfect stuff done, and basically you're still doing action. And the reason why I say you have to be in the loop of taking action is that every day of waging leads to you losing compounding. And there is nothing better in the business world like knowing you have momentum. When that momentum compounds is the best time ever, because that is when everything happens all at once for you, basically. So even if you think, okay, that I'm not going to send 10 messages today because they are all not perfect, what happens is that you've actually lost the compounding momentum that you've actually been building, because momentum definitely compounds, and when it compounds, you can definitely tell that it is here. So what you're doing is that you're not paying with money, you're just paying with the future version of yourself, because a year from now, 6 months from now, 3 months from now, you still be at the same place. And that promise that you made with your future version of yourself, telling yourself, okay, I'm going to make something out of this AI opportunity. You've just broken that promise, basically, because you kept on delaying and not taking action, because you felt like, okay, you need to send the perfect messages before everything will do it. So you need to make sure that you do the imperfect actions, regardless of whether you think it is perfect or imperfect. Just get it done with, because in your head, what a perfect message is actually never like that, because a perfect message is a message that converts, and you never know if the message converts if you haven't even sent that message in the first place. So now, well, we've all answered this question. Marius have answered it, Milos have answered it, basically. So moving over to the next thing, which is basically evidence stacking. So you do not basically flip a switch, you basically easily stack evidence, because every outreach message you send is an evidence that of you being that identity, basically. So it's a loop, basically. And every piece of content you post is an evidence. Every sales call you take is an evidence. So if you stack enough bricks, the identity keeps on reinforcing and shifts. But the first few will definitely feel pointless. All you have to do is just keep on stacking. Keep on stacking the wings daily. The momentum would eventually build up. So now, what's one piece of evidence that you have already stacked? Something the old you would not have done. Let's say you did last week, but then the old you from, let's say, the past 2 weeks wouldn't have done. Let's see if we're making progress, at least. So let's start with Marius.
I made my first VSL after a hard battle, because it was very difficult for me. I did a lot of VSL and deleted all of them. I filled all my Loom account for 2 days to get one VSL, which is not okay, but
Progress.
what like okay. Yeah, it's very difficult for me. The VSL was a huge victory, because I didn't do this before. So it was very, very difficult for me to do the VSL, even if it's only a few minutes recording. I didn't know it's so difficult. I mean, it's really hard.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, it happens with every new thing that you haven't done before. it's completely in error. And what thing did you exactly channel or use to make you actually want to do the VSL? Because yes, you've never done it before, but now you've done it, and now you've seen that it's not the end of the world. So what exactly did you channel to basically make you do the VSL in the first place?
Yeah, because of working with you.
So would you say it's just working with me? Is it because, okay, you knew that, okay, in order for you to book calls, you needed a VSL in the first place? Was it
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for the offer and the all discussion and the course, I understand that we need to have the VSL.
Okay. What about you, Milos? Thank you, man.
Nothing comes to mind really. Like last week, nothing really.
So you wouldn't say it's the client stuff? Maybe you knew that, okay, now you had to take extra steps with that. You had to rebuild the whole workflows. Maybe the old Marius wouldn't rebuild the whole workflow and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did that, but it's not anything new to me, you know, like I did it in the past. Like when I really need to do something, then I can really dig into it. It's nothing new to me.
So it's
Or just, yeah.
So it's more of, okay. So do you feel like it's more of like you needed to do it? It's not like you wanted to do it, or it's an optional thing. Is that because, okay, first of all, you had the client, which means that you're contracted, that you have a contract with that client, kind of, or an agreement with that client to fulfill that service. So you know that, okay, you needed to do it, basically.
Yeah, so we're coming back to what I previously said. So basically, I had a sales call with this client, and I sold him something that I didn't really know how to deliver. You know, that's huge, but that was like 3 weeks ago. So I'm writing it off as if like I'm gonna do it again. Now I'm there, you know, like at the moment I really don't have any issues doing it again. So give me 10 sales calls and I'll behave as if I'm the world #1 expert in it, you know, like it was hard for me the first time, but now I have the confidence to do it again. But that was like three weeks ago. Now I'm the expert.
Yeah, you see, and if you've never taken that step, would you say you would have never taken the step in the first place? If you've never taken the risk to basically sell what basically you don't even know, do you think you would ever be confident to doing it like you are now?
Well, I was always aware of this. You know, I was aware of the problem. I knew what's right. I have this cost benefit analysis. I knew what's going on. I knew the dynamics. I was nervous about it, but I did it anyway.
Definitely.
So yeah, this is something the new me is doing. Yeah, but this is already a new me. That's all new. Like I did it, and now I'm not going back. You know, I'm gonna do another sales call and another sales call. I just need to get the machine rolling now.
Perfect. And that was, if you do make your VSL, you keep on going, you can see different ways to book your calls. Even posting content on LinkedIn, there's modules for doing outreach, posting content on LinkedIn, all different type of stuff. So
yeah, looking forward to it because I had my own way of posting and reaching out on LinkedIn, and I'm looking forward to see what you got over there after I finish my VSL.
yeah, definitely there are different ways, because typically, I don't know if you've tried LinkedIn before, but then it takes a bit of time before it starts to act, before you just start to see the results.
What I wanted to say is like maybe also an advice to Marius. My posting on LinkedIn made me look like an expert. So my clients saw my content on LinkedIn, liked my posts. Basically, he was sold before the sales call. I just had to make sure I do not mess up, you know, on the sales calls, because my LinkedIn content made the 90% of the sale. So when you post stuff on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever, you build authority, then it's an easy sale.
Yeah, all has to do with the product dynamic. Basically, it just comes from a way that when your marketing is so good that it makes the sales so much easier, And in order for your marketing to be so good, obviously you haven't fulfilled yet, but then it's just a flywheel basically, because when your product is so good, it feeds back to your marketing. And when your marketing is so good, it makes the sales so much easier. In this case, your marketing was posting on LinkedIn. So it made your sales way, way more easier. Even I myself, I've had a lot of sales calls that people are coming from LinkedIn and they've seen me as the authority. But when I started on LinkedIn, this is going for my, when I started on LinkedIn a few years ago, I knew nothing. But I still kept on posting. I knew that, okay, yes, I might still get asked this question, stuff like that. But I'm really shocked how those videos, or should I say those posts, were booking calls for me, because they're extremely bad looking back at it. But I've definitely made progress. Looking back at it today, I think was the day that, wait, let's see. Can you see my screen? Can you see me going on LinkedIn right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, today we just cost 15,000. And when I started out, I did not think of me doing that basically. So it all has to do with that. And this 15,000 comes, it gives you it does a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to your sales calls, like a lot. It seems like I'm overestimating it, but I'm extremely underestimating it actually, because they already come with the belief. And the main thing that actually stops people from purchasing are these 4 things, which is basically uncertainty, price, the need for the service in general. But when you have something like this, basically it completely removes the uncertainty and stuff, because they already have belief in you. You've already positioned yourself as the authority. But the hard thing about this is that it definitely takes time before it all starts rolling basically. Because most people do start, then they give up because they expect results within maybe the first month. I'm not going to come here and tell you that you're going to get results from posting on LinkedIn in the first month. But what helps with LinkedIn is that you can also do outbound. You can DM set people. You can send outreach messages using, you can connect with people using Sales Nav, which you can see right here. And it's actually the good thing about LinkedIn is because the same way that you can get the benefits of inbound, you can also get the benefits of outbound. Even with outbound, it still takes time to as well. So I cover all of that with the outbound, the inbound, and stuff that you can be doing in the middle before the momentum starts building from LinkedIn. Because once the momentum starts building from LinkedIn, call will just start getting booked and your calendar will be filled basically. So, and that's when you have to basically increase your qualification criteria and stuff like that. But hopefully, Marius, you're getting a few takeaways from this, and also you've noticed how Milos was in the same exact situation as you are. He ended up selling something that he doesn't even know how to deliver it, or wasn't even possible, but he has done it. Now he's way more confident and he's ready to take on, as he has said, multiple amount of calls, because he has tried it. He kind of failed, but then he got himself up, and he's now way more confident than before because he took the action. So now do you see how you can basically capitalize on the same way Milos did?
Yeah, but his English is much better than mine.
Marius, it doesn't have to do much with the English level skill, because I used AI to create my posts, So even if you don't know English, you can use AI to create LinkedIn posts.
No, I mean about calling a call. This is what scared me. I never spoke with people. So I only learned myself English. And so I didn't spoke technically and explaining things to people. This is what scared me to call people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is fearless. Nice that you brought this up. Okay, so I started calling people, I think last year. And I had a fear like my English is not good enough. Then I started calling people. And then I realized that a lot of people that I'm speaking to in the US, they have worse English than I do. Like people from Asia, people from South America, they run businesses over there. If you're going after a dentist, it's not going to happen. But if you're going after plumbers, cleaners, electricians, you'll realize that you're going to talk to people that their English is no better than yours at all, and it's not a big deal. So if you're marketing to US market, they are already used to people from Asia, from all over the world. So having an accent is not really that big of an issue. And you come to realize that your English is good enough for a cold call to reach out to via email or LinkedIn message or whatever. You just need to do it and spend as much time like practicing, like getting the terminology and the lingo of your body.
And
then after some time, you're going to use the same words all over again. Like leads, follow up, stuff like that.
Definitely. And if we're already having a conversation like this and you're understanding what we're talking about here, and I can understand you, Willows can understand you as well, it's more than good enough. And the thing is that if you never start, you would never actually start doing the repetitions, which would make you more than good enough. Because obviously, if you start now, you'll always be bad. You will always be bad. I can remember when I started my cold call, the journey, basically, it was so bad. It was so bad. Like even at that event, I was extremely good at speaking English, like it's my native language and stuff like that. But I was still bad. But then what helped me get better was the repetitions, basically. So even if you have it in the back of your mind that, okay, like my English is a bit bad, so I think that, okay, I might not be able to book calls. But reality is that even if your English was good, your first few cold calls will always be bad. They will always be bad. Your first few cold calls and your first few sales calls will always be bad if you never had them before, basically. Because even if, as I've said, like your English is good and stuff like that, you always have that paranoia and anxiety a bit that, okay, what if, like basically the questions that you said, like, okay, what if they ask me something that I don't know about and stuff like that. But you never get ready until you have those repetitions in. So you just need to see it as more of a practice, basically. Not as a way of failing and stuff like that. But your English is more than good enough, Marius. And the more you do it, the better you get, basically. So you'd even see improvement in your English.
Yeah.
So hopefully that does help.
And there's one more thing about cold calling. There are always people that are ready to pay for what you have to offer. Like take my money people. So there's always certain percentage of people who are aware of the problem, one of the solution, and it's just a matter of who approaches them first. So sometimes you call someone, offer them voice AI agent, and they will say, oh yeah, I was just talking to my wife that I really need it. How soon can we start? So that happens when you call like 300 people. At least 2 or 3 will be ready to buy. It's just a matter of not messing it up completely, just saying the right things. That's it. You don't have to overthink it.
Yeah. Just see it like you're having a conversation with Milos, or you're having a conversation, or you're having a conversation with me. Do not have it in the back of your head like, okay, like I'm selling to, yes, you're just selling to a business, but just frame it from a perspective of, okay, I'm just having another conversation. And as I've said, your English is definitely good enough. So do not see it as a blocker, basically.
Plus, cold calls are usually scripted.
Yeah.
So you already know what to say. You can practice your tone, your the way you say things. So you'll be good. You'll be good to go.
Yeah, you'll be good. Like do not see it as a blocker and stuff like that, basically. So now we have basically the whole operation system, which is basically the mirror test, which is where you check your actions, not your intentions. Then the decision filter, which is basically asking yourself what would the pentier version of yourself do, and the fear tax, which is basically scared of doing something because you think, or you have this thought that, okay, it's not good enough or it's not perfect and stuff like that, when you should just take the action, because inaction costs more than imperfection. And the more reps you do, the better you get. Your first rep will always not be good. So regardless of whether it is perfect or not perfect, it will always end up being bad. And evidence stacking, because every small action builds, ends up building identity for you. So now that's the end of this, and if you have any questions regarding identity mindset or anything in this category, just let me know.